Hi, my name's Amy Feller, also known as the Roofer Chick, and today we are going to geek out on a little ventilation talk, which is one of my favorite subjects. A lot of people think that the color of your shingles or metal is what is going to keep your attic cool, but in reality, the most important part of all of that is having proper ventilation, and a lot of people don't understand it. So the way ventilation works, just the basics, you have to have an intake and an outtake for ventilation to work. So if your house doesn't, usually the intake is soffit vents, and if your house doesn't have any soffit vents, you might consider installing some. You want the intake, the soffit vents, as low as you can get it on the roof, and you want the outtake, which there's all different types that we can talk about, as high on the roof as you can get it. And what that does is hot air rises and it creates a natural pull to pull the air through your attic from the low point to the high point so it can escape. And that's what keeps your attic well ventilated. The way to calculate what you need for ventilation is for every 300 square foot of attic space, you need 1 square foot of ventilation. Sorry. And the way I really do this is I use a cheat system, but I'll tell you about that in a second. That 1 foot is split 50-50 between the outtake and the intake. So when you do this, you need to make sure that you're using your square foot of attic space, not square footage of the house. That there can be a big difference there, especially if you have a 2-story house. Now, I don't calculate every single house. What I do is I use GAF has a ventilation calculator where you just type in the square footage of the attic and it tells you what to use. Also, there's a company called AirVent. I think it's just airvent.com. He'll put the thing on here, but they also have a calculator, and that makes it a lot easier. So then what we move into is types of outtake and how you can get too much, or other ways to do it improperly. So we at Feller, we really prefer 2 kinds of outtake for the most part. The first is, my favorite, is ridge vents. So with ridge vents, you have to have enough ridge to do it, and the ridge has to be all the way up on the top of your house. Sometimes you'll see it where the house has a main ridge and then there's littler gables or there's other levels of the roof and they've put ridge vent on that, and that's not proper because now you've got different levels of outtakes and you don't want that. And when you have that, so your intake's at the bottom, your outtake's up here, and now you got another outtake here. Well, this outtake actually starts acting like an intake, and so now you're just circulating air in the top of your attic instead of pulling it all the way up and through from the soffit. So you don't want that. And to pull off ridge vent, you've got to have enough, whatever the ventilation calculator tells you that you need. Like if you have 1,600 square foot of attic space, you need 22 feet of ridge vent. And so you have to have 22 feet of ridge to be able to pull that off. So, and the way it works is if you don't already have it open from the builder or from the last roofer, we take a skill saw. We cut back 1.5 inches to 2 inches on both sides of your ridge, and then we put either a 9-inch or a 12-inch plastic ridge vent over the top of that, and you shingle over the top of that so it kind of just blends into your roof. It does make a mess in your attic, and so if that's going to bother you, you might want to lay down a tarp before the roofing crew comes out and cuts that in, especially like if your Christmas decorations are up there or something that you want to protect. The other type of venting that we like, if you don't have enough ridge, is we use an electric power vent. So an electric power vent, we like Masterflow as the brand that we like because it lasts and it doesn't burn up. And it has a thermostat on it. We generally set it at 100 degrees. If we can, we ponytail off of your attic switch if you have one. If not, we'll find power somewhere else in the house to pull from. We put it on a switch just in case you ever want to turn it off for some reason. You're able to do that. Like if a coon were to go up there and just bend it and it was going thunk, 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 and you want to sleep, so you could turn it off. So, yeah, we do that whenever your attic reaches 100 degrees or wherever it's set, it just starts kicking air. If you set it too low, like I had one customer that insisted he wanted to set it at 80, that means that it's going to be running all the time, 24/7, and it will burn up. So you really don't want to set it that low. 100 degrees, 104 degrees, that seems to work pretty well. There's other types of ventings. Sometimes on mobile homes, we'll use what we call turtle vents. and they're also called slant back vents, I think is the proper name. They're another form of static vent that doesn't have a motor on it that works fairly well. It just, on a big roof, it takes so many of those, it really clutters your roof. And every hole that you have in a roof is a potential leak point. So the less of those you have, the better off you are. So we run across houses all the time that are not properly ventilated. It's a tough thing to understand, and a lot of architects and builders just don't get it. There's a neighborhood up in San Marcos. Actually, I think there's a couple neighborhoods like this. But the builder, you can see they put vents just everywhere. So they have them way down low instead of all the way up on the top like what we were talking about. And then they have another level at the top. And the whole neighborhood is done like this. Tons of holes in all these roofs, and it's just not proper. So when we re-roof these houses, we close off all that old ventilation and put in either a ridge vent or a power vent. We might leave one hole open to do the power vent if it's in the right spot. We always want it as high as we can get it in the center of the house on the back where you're not seeing it from the street. So in conclusion, ventilation is extremely important, and there's a lot of resources out there to help you out if you're trying to figure it out on your own. GAF has a ventilation calculator. AirVent has a lot of information on it as well. Or hire a roofing contractor who understands ventilation. If you get the ventilation right on your house, you're really going to notice it on your electric bill. Thanks for watching another episode with us, and we'll see you next time.